A very good afternoon. Welcome to Africa Today. I am Uduak Daniel. First, let's talk the headlines. And on the headlines, Federal Executive Council approves new anti-corruption strategy document. Still on the headlines, Sierra Leone MPS brawl over electoral system. Also on the headlines, Zimbabwe president calls for peace ahead of general elections. And on sports, new NFF management to prioritize age-grade football. And now the news in detail. Nigeria's Federal Executive Council, that is the FEC, has approved an extension of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy document from 2022 to 2026. This follows the presentation of a memo to that effect by the Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation, that is the AGF, Abubakar Malami. The Justice Minister disclosed this to State House correspondents while briefing them on decisions reached at this week's meeting of the Council, chaired by President Muhammadu Buhari. He said the Office of the Attorney General of the Federation, that is the AGF, presented a council memo seeking approval for the validation, adoption and extension of the National Anti-Corruption Strategy document from 2022 to 2026. The minister said this follows the chain of successes recorded in the fight against corruption, which is a hallmark of the Buhari administration. Malami also highlighted that the Buhari-led administration has so far recovered over $1 billion from its inception to date. He added that the proceeds of the fight against corruption have been plowed into the nation's economy as a means of impacting the livelihood of Nigerians through programs like school feeding program and other money, among trader money and others. And now, away from that story, the Independent National Electoral Commission, that is INEC, has stated its determination to frontally tackle the issue of political party campaign spending ahead of the 2023 general elections. The nation's electoral body said areas of violation include party and candidate expenditure beyond what is provided by the law and the diabolical practice of vote buying at polling units on elections day. The chairman of INEC, Mahmood Yakubu, who spoke at the National Stakeholders Forum on Elections organized by the Nigerian Civil Society Situation Room, that is the NCSSR in Abuja, said the commission will today publish a summary of the guidelines on finances and election expenses of parties and candidates. Yakubu said this when he received the Commonwealth pre-election assessment mission to Nigeria in Abuja yesterday.
We have taken those recommendations very seriously, the Commonwealth and others, and that has been factored into the preparations for the 2023 general election. We want to assure the international community that Nigeria will not let you down. The quality of elections will always improve. A story emanating from a section of the media that the Commission has decided to jettison the uploading of polling unit level results in real time on election day. It should please be disregarded as fake news.
In a statement, Abiola Somono commended the Commission for displaying preliminary register of voters online for claims and objections.
Here on a listening, if you will, tour to understand and appreciate the preparations towards the elections, to understand some of the scope, challenges, and opportunities for the elections. As you probably know, with regards to the Commonwealth, one of the things that we look at in terms of governance and democracy is elections. But elections is not the only opportunity for us. We look at it from a standpoint of a whole of the elections, as we call it.
The leader of the Commonwealth Secretariat, Lindiwe Maluleke, has also sought to know the ruling party's concern in the build-up to the general election. Away from that story, Nigeria's House of Representatives has passed for second reading a bill seeking to establish a national commission for Almajiri education and out-of-school children. A member of the House from Sokoto State, Shehu Kakale, and 18 others sponsored the bill. According to the reports, the bill was passed for second reading about 24 hours after former President Olusegun Obasanjo warned that there are over 20 million out-of-school children in Nigeria, which constitute almost 10% of global statistics, were potential terrorists. Obasanjo had issued the warning on Tuesday as a panelist at a two-day National Summit on Tertiary Education Reform organized by the Office of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Femi Gbajabiamila, which ended on Wednesday. Leading the debate on the bill at the second reading on Wednesday, Kakale said Nigeria is among many other countries that is confronted with the phenomenon of out-of-school children.
Bill for an act to establish the National Commission for Almajiri Education and out-of-school children to provide for a multimodal system of education, to tackle the menace of illiteracy, develop skill acquisition.
Several members of the House, including the Speaker Femi Gbajabiamila, expressed their backing of the bill. And away from that story, the National Drugs Law Enforcement Agency, that is the NDLEA, has seized 1.5 tons of illicit drugs and arrested 993 suspects in Katsina State from November 10, 2021 to November 23. The NDLEA commander in the state, Mohammed Bashir, made this known while briefing newsmen on the activities of the command within the period under review. Bashir said the team tackled the situation using an evidence-based approach in terms of substance use, which has yielded positive results with 993 arrests. They comprised 977 males and 16 females. The commander said 93% of the suspects arrested are between 16 and 40 years. Bashir said the Drug Demand Reduction Unit of the command was able to counsel and rehabilitate 76 people. Bashir said through the NDLEA's war against drug abuse, the command has taken its message to most of the communities within the state. When we return, news from other parts of West Africa. Don't go away. Always a delight to have you back. A row over a new electoral system in Sierra Leone has prompted a brawl in parliament. Video footage shows punches being exchanged amid raucous shouting. A huge object, apparently the parliamentary mace, is hurled from one side of the chamber to the other and then back. Members from the governing and opposition parties were pitted against each other over a plan to bring in proportional representation, short of its strong support to the country in these difficult times. According to him, a preliminary fiscal adjustment path and debt strategy have been agreed upon. Presenting the 2023 to Parliament on Thursday, Ofori-Atta said negotiations will be expected for the benefit of Ghanaians. And now let's quickly get on to other parts of Africa and bring you more stories. Having you know, the Zimbabwean President Emmerson Mnangagwa Wednesday officially opened the 5th session of the 9th Parliament of Zimbabwe. He delivered a State of the Nation address in the newly built parliament. The multi-million-dollar building was gifted by the Asian economic giant China. Speaking before lawmakers, Mnangagwa also reiterated calls for an end to economic sanctions.
Political players seeking the people's mandate during the upcoming 2023 harmonized general elections must maintain and consolidate the current peace, unity, harmony, and love. Maintain and consolidate the current peace, unity.
According to reports in late October, Zimbabwe's ruling party, ZANU-PF, ZANU-FPF, endorsed the president as sole party candidate ahead of next year's polls. 80-year-old Emmerson Mnangagwa came to power in 2017 after toppling longtime ruler Robert Mugabe in a coup backed by the army. The UN Special Rapporteur on the negative impact of unilateral coercive measures on the enjoyment of human rights issued a report in October recommending the lifting unilateral sanctions in line with the principles of international law. Still listening to Africa Today, a few days after South Africa's top court ordered the release on parole of Janzus Walus, the ruling continues to cause outrage. Walus has served Apologies for that short break in transmission. Still on the South African story, let's have you know the South African ambassador to Qatar, Faisal Musa, says it took the country to the edge of civil war.
To the edge of civil war, man. Even if it wasn't for Mandela making that statement that he did, asking for calm and forcing the de Klerk government to come up with a date for elections. I mean, de Klerk couldn't even do that. I mean, it took de Klerk couldn't even do that. I mean, it took Mandela to calm down.
Polish-born Janusz Wallace shot dead Chris Hani in the driveway of his house on April 10, 1993 in Boksburg, a suburb east of Johannesburg. 51-year-old Hani was the General Secretary of the South African Communist Party, that is the SACP, and Chief of the Staff of Umkhonto we Sizwe, the armed wing of the ruling African National Congress, that is the ANC. In a statement, the Communist Party said Hani's murder left a gaping wound in his family, the SACP, and the ranks of the working class. The judgment has rubbed salt granules to the wound. Wallace was convicted of every serious crime, cold-blooded murder, said Constitutional Court Judge Chief Justice Raymond Zondo, adding his conduct nearly plunged this country into civil unrest, but he was entitled under law to parole. And now let's quickly get on the short break. When we come back, it will be time for business news. Don't go away. Bank of Nigeria, that is the CBN, Godwin Emefiele, has said that it would work with law enforcement agencies like the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, that is the EFCC, and the Independent Corrupt Practices and Other Related Offences Commission, that is the ICPC, to complicate and track large withdrawals. He said this while briefing the press after the launch of the new Naira banknote in Abuja on Wednesday. At the briefing, Emefiele added that the amount of money that can be withdrawn from the counter would be reduced drastically, adding that bulk withdrawals would require several procedures and security, as the current tender has been in circulation for nearly 20 years. This was, as he said, the newly redesigned notes have unique security features that make them difficult to counterfeit. To Tanzania, Tanzania has begun rationing electricity due to a drop in hydroelectric output after a severe drought, the national power company said Wednesday, November 24th, with some areas facing 9-hour blackouts. The East African country can produce nearly 1,695 megawatts of power from hydroelectricity and natural gas, among other sources, but it is currently facing a shortfall of 300 to 350 megawatts, said Maharaji Chande, managing director of TANESCO, the national power company. The site of Kansi was, for example, in the region of Morogoro Southeast, has seen its production capacity fall from 180 megawatts to only 17 megawatts. Tanzania has been trying to increase its hydroelectricity production in recent years, thanks to, in particular, to the construction of the controversial Julius Nyerere Dam in the Selos Reserve, which was supposed to produce around 2,100 megawatts. Like its neighbors, the country has experienced low rainfall and a delayed rainy season, forcing authorities to impose water rationing in Dar es Salaam last month. Still to come is sports. Stay with us.
A very good afternoon and welcome to Sport News on Africa Today. I am Memo Cynthia Asoya. Now to sports. Director of Communications, Nigerian Football Federation, that is the NFF, Ademola Olajire, on Wednesday said that the core mandate of the newly elected management of the Football House was to prioritize age-grade football and grassroots development. Ademola said this while speaking with newsmen on the sidelines of the 9th Nigerian Pitch Award News Conference at Ikeja, Lagos State. Ademola said that the failure by the Super Eagles to qualify for the ongoing FIFA World Cup had left sour taste in the mouth of every football fan in Nigeria, including the NFF. Ademola noted that the reason for the mandate of the new administration of NFF was to ensure that the national teams were built around locally sourced players. And away from that, to the Black Stars of Ghana, who will face off Cristiano Ronaldo's side Portugal on today, marking its 4th appearance at the prestigious world competition. The Ghanaian team boasts of young and upcoming players who are making the first-time appearance at the World Arena. The Ayew brothers are the only players who have ever played at the World Cup. Black Star captain Andrew Ayew hopes the team will be able to upset the 2016 European champions, talking about Portugal, by following on the footsteps of Saudi Arabia, who were considered a weaker team.
I wouldn't say any teams underestimate us, because anything can happen, and obviously today is clear of that, but I think the ranking is just a number. It doesn't actually mean anything, so we're going to show the world that we're not the underdogs.
Portugal, on the other hand, will feature Cristiano Ronaldo, who has talking about Samuel Chukwueze. The Nigerian international has been with the Yellow Submarines since moving to Europe following his brilliance at the 2015 FIFA Under-17 World Cup. Chukwueze has been a subject of interest from Aston Villa since the English side appointed former Arsenal boss Unai Emery as their manager. Unai Emery and Chukwueze worked together at Villarreal before the tactician returned to the Premier League a few weeks ago, and the two could be reunited at Villa Park, which is Aston Villa, who are keen to back Emery up with funds to make meaningful additions to the squad in January. A largely successful 5-year spell in Spain has seen Chukwueze develop into one of the most exciting loan move to Everton in the summer, but negotiations stalled at the crucial moments. And that's your sport news on Africa Today. Back.
Many thanks. Orders Guinea ex-military ruler, Federal Executive Council approves new anti-corruption strategy document. We also told you Sierra Leone MPs brawl over electoral system. We brought to the fore the fact that Zimbabwe president calls for peace ahead of general elections. And on sports, new NFF management to prioritize